Hello, good morning. I hope that you're all well and that you've had a good week. Now this video contains 5 new products, so make sure you watch to the very end because I personally think I'm keeping the product I'm most excited about to the very end. Originally, I filmed this video with Sue of Mini McBeans on Thursday, ready for release today. This morning, I went to edit it and I found that the video was corrupted halfway through. I seem to have this problem with my iPhone and transferring videos to my iPad or PC for editing. So I'm doing this video all by myself today. It would have been much more fun and easier if Sue was with me. So I want to start with Sue's new products. I'm recording this video on Saturday, June the, what is the date today? June the 7th, and at 5 p.m. UK time today, Sue of Mini McBeans is opening her Etsy store. Now, Sue's Etsy store, whenever she opens it, it always sells out very, very quickly. So make sure you pop along. I'm going to show you 2 products, but there are more products that she's releasing today. Sue has done this lovely scissor fob for Anne Ogston, which is a beautiful sampler featuring a red house. So many beautiful things about this sampler. And look at that turquoise heart that appears in the sampler. Sue has replicated it there. Now this sampler, the main feature is the house. So Sue has included a little house charm that says sweet home, I believe. Yes, sweet home. A heart to replicate the heart in the sampler, and the key of the door. I just think that's just so beautiful. So that's going to be available 5 p.m. UK time today. And then the other scissor fob that Sue is releasing, and this is very special, is the beautiful Magdalena. This is an absolutely glorious sampler, beautiful basket of flowers, and Sue has taken the theme of the basket and flowers and really done a beautiful job with the charms on the fob. Sue has done a second version of this with turquoise or blue, whichever you want to call it, heart as well, because in this sampler there is a lot of blue. Now, when I've been talking about project bags over the last few weeks, this was the one that I showed first. Though it hadn't been released at that time. And the reason I showed this first was this is the first project bag panel that I designed. It features Magdalena's beautiful sampler and this mouth-watering gingham lining. And this project bag panel is now available for the month of June. At the end of June, this design will be retired. And the reason that this is now available is because I've just released Magdalena's sampler. There we go. So there is the project bag panel that is available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website in the online store under printed fabric. Now let's get to the sampler. I know that there have been so many people waiting for this sampler. It's very special. That bottom section, just scrumptious. I love blue and reds and dusky pinks. And I love these flashes of orange and the yellow that's in the sampler. Really truly beautiful. So many of those motifs would make beautiful pin cushions or other smalls. Now, Magdalena's sampler, it's all cross stitch over 2 with the exception of her name and her age and the year. If you want to stitch this on Ada and you need some help adjusting just that little bit so it's cross stitch over 2, all you need to do is reach out to us and we will help you. Now, it was quite some time ago with Magdalena that we released a sneak peek of this sampler being stitched, and literally hundreds of you have since then been regularly emailing me and messaging me and leaving comments on that post about when is this going to be available. Well, I wanted to hold on to this sampler because it was reproduced by Sandra in Katoomba, New South Wales, Australia, and it was stitched by Leona in Glencoe, Queensland, Australia. And because of that Australian connection, I wanted to release this at the workshop I recently had in Tasmania. The charts for Magdalena and the PDF downloads are available on the Hands Across the Sea Samplers website, but they are now also available from needlework stores around the world. Now, because this was released in Tasmania at the workshop hosted by A Stitch in Time, Carolyn has a very good supply of kits for this sampler, the linen and or the silks and the DMCs. I know there's going to be a rush for supplies for this sampler, and you know, Carolyn has them in stock now. So pop along to her website. She does ship worldwide. Obviously, she can't ship into EU countries because of the GPRS regulations. Those regulations are such a pain. I feel very sorry for EU needleworkers. You know, it's just so unfair on them. So, Magdalena, let me tell you a little bit about this sampler. Here is her booklet, and we've taken from the sampler Learn to Do Well. The sampler is 262 stitches by 290, a good size sampler without being overwhelming. We use 23 colours, and those colours, they make your mouth water. They really, really do. The linen we used was Ragamuffin from Tabby Cat Linen. Now, I've seen various different versions of Ragamuffin. You do not want something that is heavily mottled. It will detract from the sampler. If you look at the model, there's a little bit of aging, just enough to give the sampler some soul, but not too much. You don't want heavy mottling to be fighting with these beautiful colours. The linen or the Ada needs to be the background that showcases these truly beautiful, beautiful motifs. Just everything about this sampler, it makes my mouth water. Now, we love these motifs so much, we took them and popped them into the booklet. That basket is truly gorgeous. Now, Magdalena is a sampler from Yorkshire, and we found Magdalena. Her name was so unusual, Magdalena Uthwaite. Now, in the video I recorded with Sue on Thursday that was corrupted, Sue, as she's from Yorkshire, said to me that I'm pronouncing Uthwaite incorrectly, and I trust Sue's judgment as a Yorkshire lass, and she said it's Outhwaite. So Magdalena Outhwaite. I've got to remember to say Outhwaite, not Uthwaite. Magdalena is from Sutton in Holderness in Yorkshire, and she was born in 1820. That village is now part of the city of Hull. Her father died when she was just 7 years old, and Magdalena had a very hard life. She never married, she never had children, and she was in domestic service all her life. By the 1891 census, she was living as a maiden aunt in the home of one of her nieces, and that couldn't have been a pleasant position to be in. She died shortly after the census in 1891, and as I said in the booklet, we hope that Magdalena was beloved and that she had comfort in her life through the many hardships she faced. And it's almost like with the verses that Magdalena stitched when she was 12, it was obvious her life was all very hard for her, very sad. But such a beautiful sampler. I hope that you really enjoy it. There we go. The booklet and the PDF are available now. I actually put all the new products that I've got on my website yesterday. Great plans. I put them on the website yesterday. I thought, right, when I wake up at 6:30 Saturday morning, I'll edit the video, get it started to upload, and then I've got all day Saturday free to cut fabric for project bags. Obviously that hasn't gone to plan with the corrupted video, but many of the eagle-eyed hats fans spotted that I had put Magdalena on the website even though I hadn't announced it, and this morning we had sold out of the printed booklets. I can't believe it. Anyway, I've already emailed my printers, so by about Tuesday or Wednesday we will have a new supply of booklets for forthcoming orders. You guys, honestly, thank you so much. Okay, right. The product I'm really excited about that I wanted to show you. This was never intended for sale. This was a personal project. Last weekend I posted a video of a very reluctant husband showcasing the quilt that I'd made featuring Elizabeth Stevenson. Now, it's very difficult for me to hold this up myself and show it to you. That's the quilt, or part of the quilt, and I designed this quilt for an armchair in my bedroom, and it was through designing this quilt for my bedroom that the project bag for Elizabeth Stevens came into being. I showed this quilt, as I said, last Saturday, and I had so many requests to make this available, and I have done so. Now, this is a quilt in a day. This is the easiest quilt that you are ever going to make. It finishes at 55 inches wide by 65 inches long. It's a super size for a armchair, which is what it was designed for, the back of a sofa, and a lovely size to snuggle under in those winter months. So, why is it so easy? It's because it's made up of a panel where everything is there. So, what you get is a panel with everything already there. There is no piecing of the top panel. When Sue was here, we could hold this up so that you could see. What I'm going to do is insert some photographs into the video so you can see the overall panel. Now, when the panel comes, at the bottom of the panel, you've got your binding, and you just cut that binding off the bottom. So you just cut that off, and then you make up your binding strips, which I show you how to do in the how-to tutorial for the project bag, which has binding on. There is no piecing on this top panel at all. Everything is there for you. I had some fun creating different elements. You've got some hexes in the cornerstones, and the hexes include little motifs, all little different motifs throughout, taken from the sampler. I love quilts with sashing, so I utilised sashing designs for the edges, and these colours are all found in this sampler, and the printing quality of the sampler is really superb. You can see every single stitch, and you can also see the threads of the linen in the fabric. So this is printed on cotton, but you can actually see the threads of the linen. When you go to touch this, you're expecting there to be stitching. It really looks as if this piece of fabric has been stitched. It's so pretty. So pretty. Okay, so I designed backing fabric, and this backing fabric appears in the sampler as the base for the hexagons, the hexy flowers, and it just, these colours are just perfect colours to use as a backing fabric. I love my backing fabrics to be interesting. The back of the quilt is just as important to me as the front of the quilt. Now, with the backing, it's optional. You can either just buy the quilt top, or you can buy the quilt top and the backing panel. There's option 1 and option 2. Now, the backing panel is 13 inches longer than the top of the quilt. When you're quilting, say if you send it to a long arm quilter, you need to have extra fabric, so it's there for you. Even if you quilt it at home, you'll find the extra fabric really does make a difference. You need at least 4 inches either side to for the quilting. Now, because this is the maximum width of the fabric, which is 140 centimetres, 55 inches wide. It's not quite wide enough. So I designed a strip to insert into the backing fabric, and this is taken from the design in the front, and you insert this into, where's my quilt? I've got a dog right under my feet here. You insert it into, and that's upside down, the back of your fabric. Now, this is how easy this is. You don't have to go measuring a centre line all the way down 78 inches of fabric. What you do, you have 2 straight edges on your fabric. Either end of your backing fabric is a straight edge. What I would do is trim this down to 1/4 of an inch, and then I would add this to the one side. Okay, so you would seam those together, and then you will seam the other side of the central zip to the other edge of the quilt. Then you just fold your quilt in half, get your centre and then just snip it, lay it out, and using the pattern in the oh, this is upside down, I should have been doing it that way. Using the pattern, just eyeball a line. It doesn't matter if it's not straight, because this is going to be the outer edges of your quilt, which when you quilt, you will trim off anyway. Makes it so easy. Then you have your top panel, you have your binding, and you have your backing fabric ready to go. You can do two things, one of two things at this point. You can send it all to a long arm quilter for them to quilt, or you can do it yourself. I did my quilting in the hoop on my sewing machine, which has an embroidery setting. The pattern that I chose for the quilt was very open. I wanted the quilting to be open because I didn't want it to detract from the sampler, because this quilt is all about this sampler, and I just didn't want it to detract. Normally when I quilt, I go for an over-dyed thread to make the quilting a feature, but this time I matched the thread I used to the colour of the linen, or it's not linen, it's cotton, but the linen of the sampler, the linen of the image. And I kept the design very open, so it didn't detract from the sampler. If you are not a quilter, or you're unable to free motion quilt or quilt in the hoop, one of the easiest ways of quilting this quilt is to do a cross hatch diamond pattern. And that's basically sewing straight lines. We can all sew a straight line. How you get that straight line is you can use a ruler and mark the front, but the best way of doing it is to get some masking tape, lay the masking tape across in your on your diagonal, and then with your sewing machine, using the edge of the masking tape, sew a straight line along that edge, not in the masking tape, on the fabric, but using that edge as a guide. Once you've done that, you take the masking tape off and you move it over, and the line of stitching that you've made is your guideline to lay your masking tape again, and then you sew along the edge of the masking tape and you repeat, and that way you get straight lines on the diagonal, evenly spaced, and you just do that on both diagonals and you will create a lovely cross hatch pattern. After you've done that, you just trim the edges using the straight edge in the pattern. What I did, I put this little dark edge on because I didn't want to get into this too far, and this was my guideline. I'll explain that more when I do the how-to video tutorial. Once you've trimmed your quilt, you just need to add your binding and you have a finished quilt. I did this quilt last Saturday. I started about, I don't know, probably around between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 10 o'clock that evening my quilt was completely made. In that time I stopped for a dinner that evening, and I stopped, to chat to Ray, chat to friends. It wasn't a continuous session. So if you want to replicate this quilt, it is available now on the Hats website under printed fabric, and you can purchase option 1, which is just the quilt top, and the binding, which is at the bottom, or you can purchase option 2, which includes the quilt top, the binding, the backing fabric, and the insert strip. I can't wait to see your finished quilts. If you've never quilted before, it's going to be a great project to get you into quilting. And if you're an experienced quilter, it's going to be an absolute doddle for you. Okay, right, so a recap. Sue has some beautiful new scissor fobs and other things in her Etsy store today. June the, what did I say it was? 6th, 7th? What's the date? What is the date? June the 7th. Saturday, June the 7th at 5 p.m. UK time. Sue's Etsy store opens. On my website, you can now purchase the project bag panel for the month of June, or throughout the month of June, and the printed booklet and PDF of Magdalena, and then you've got the quilt. It seems funny sharing the quilt, which was designed for a very personal space of mine. When I was talking with Sue, she said that she loves going into fabric stores, and I have been in fabric stores with her, and she loves buying fabric, but one of her problems is putting fabric together, the choices, the colour choices. With the project bags, that's all been taken care of for you. I've tried to make the linings interesting. When I worked in my professional life, I always wore a suit, whether it was a trouser suit, a dress suit, or a skirt suit. And I always make sure that the lining of my jackets or coats had interesting linings. And I've tried to do that with the project bags. Okay, right. I'm going to start to ramble. Until next week, stay well. Stay safe. Bye-bye.